And joining us now to discuss the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza are in studio. We have Draginja Nadazdin, General Director of Doctors Without Borders Poland. And via the internet, we have Dr. Frank Musmar, Middle East expert. Hello and welcome to you both.
Evening.
Hello,
So
and
now,
thanks for having me.
can you tell us what is the humanitarian situation in Gaza?
Unfortunately, since October 7, we can see the increasing problems with the humanitarian situation, and right now it is actually catastrophic. And our fears are connected with the threats that there will be further military operation, especially in southern Gaza, in city of Rafah, that is right now home to more than 1.5 million people who were displaced from their homes from northern Strip. So what is our biggest fear right now is that bombing are still continuing, people are wounded, but also there is a huge rise of malnutrition that was not a problem before the war in Gaza. So there's many problems that are actually becoming more and more serious. And first of all, we don't see political will that would lead to stopping the fire and introducing the permanent ceasefire that is definitely needed. And also, of course, giving us opportunity to provide humanitarian aid to those people in need.
Right. Frank, Draginja just told us some horrifying figures. Now, the UN has published a report that some 10,000 victims of the current conflict were women, 6,000 of them mothers, who orphaned 19,000 children. 19,000 children. Now, what happens with those orphans?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I appreciate what your guest said. Well, like from the humanitarian side, I don't have much to say here. You know, whenever there is a war, there is retaliations and there is problems. So I'm really sorry to hear all those news. In the meantime, in the case of a war, of course, there is always catastrophic results that might happen here and there. So I cannot comment on that subject.
Yes, but I'm wondering about the willingness of other countries of the region to help those poor people.
Well, yeah, the will is there, and even like countries from the neighborhood, they've been offering helps through Egypt, through Turkey, through Jordan as well. But in the meantime, the war is still going, and there is consequences here and there. What else you can do in a situation of war?
So now, since we are on this topic of those children, and so many have been left without mothers, and I feel children being just this most vulnerable group, do we know anything, Draginja, about are there any safeguards put in place so that these children don't fall, for example, victim of human trafficking?
First of all, I must emphasize that each war has its rules. I mean, we have international humanitarian law that is providing the rules of war. And what we can see here is that is complete disregard and undermining of international humanitarian law. And part of this law is actually devoted to protect the most vulnerable groups, civilians, children, women. But I must also say that here in Gaza, what we are facing is that since December, doctors are using the acronym that is that stands for Wounded Child, No Survived Families, and these are thousands of children like that. That there are no survived families around. The problem right now is we don't even think about, as you mentioned, trafficking. We don't even think about it because first of all, these children must survive, and there is a complete blockage of the Gaza Strip, so people are not allowed to move from neither through the Egyptian border, neither through the border with Israel. So the question is here how to provide much needed help to these children and civilians, and how actually to stop them, to stop bombs because these children are actually exposed to day and night bombing, losing the families, losing the family members, and many of them already lost their homes and had to move from one place to another several times during these months, having no safe place in Gaza. So I cannot agree on the attitude that we are seeing just another war. We are seeing the war that was unseen in Gaza, and we are seeing the war with such intensity of attacks against civilians, against children, and against medical staff, and such a destruction of the medical facilities and the infrastructure that is devoted to civilian purpose, that we cannot actually say that this is just another incident or this is just another war.
But maybe it's all coming to an end. And for Frank, I want to ask you, because Israel is preparing to enter Rafah, now dubbed by the Israeli army as the very last stronghold of Hamas. So will this be the end of this bloody conflict?
Well, as I said once before when we met last time, I feel the problem is in the hands of Hamas. If you remember, Hamas conditions to stop the war is for Israel to release 40 of their insurgents, the one that they've been in jail for a long time. So according to the reports from your guest, and all those people are dying on a daily basis, those are humans as well. So who's a human here? The 40 in jail or those people? Hamas decisions is leading those all thousands of people of being killed or being kids without families or refugees and all that. All this catastrophic accounts falls in Hamas' shoulders. All this for the sake of 40 people? Does that worth it? Those people has no value, but their insurgents, the one that in jail in Israel, has value.
So now what
Can
about...
they stop the war in 5 seconds? Can they stop the war in 5 seconds? Release every single person, Israelis, that they kidnapped, and forget about the subject of their insurgents in the jails of Israel. This will stop or not?
That's a question. Well, it's also a question whether Hamas still has any public support among Palestinians.
Well, the problem is Gaza's situation and Hamas' situation for the last 20 years. Every single member is a person from Hamas. Why? Because every single war creates a new Hamasi or insurgents. Why? Because of the circumstances that they are living. So basically, where Hamas comes from, it comes from Gaza. It comes from the area. Now, I'm not supporting. Don't misunderstand me. I'm working against, or I feel against those civilians, or I don't feel with them. But in the meantime, the entire decision could be done in 5 minutes. How many times the entire world tried to solve this problem, and Hamas is declining or refusing any solution? How are you going to solve it?
That's what the US repeats, that it's the ball is in Hamas's court.
I would say that the ball is in both hands. So we are calling both sides of the conflict to stop killing.
And now, Draginja, I wanted to ask you, because you also mentioned the destruction of medical facilities. Now, it was just today that Israeli forces shot a Palestinian volunteer medic in the West Bank. And now, after that attack that took place on April 1st and killed 7 volunteers of the World Central Kitchen, Israel did say that it would plan to adjust war tactics in order to make sure that such situations don't happen again. Yet today we have another situation. What do we know about this, and has anything changed?
Unfortunately, before the killing of World Central Kitchen at the beginning of April, we could see the pattern of killing and attacking medical staff, but also humanitarian staff, and more than 200 people, humanitarians, were killed before beginning of April. they were Palestinians, and therefore there was no such outreach by the international community. But we cannot say that it was incident. It was either intentional, either it was actually indicative of complete incompetencies. I'm not really able to say anything about competencies of the Israeli army, but what we could say is just, and we said it after the killing of the World Central Kitchen staff, that it is not enough to hear apologize from Israeli side. It's not enough to hear condemnation coming from US and other countries. It is really time to stop it. And this killing, latest killing only shows that we are not seeing actually neither the respect for interim measures that were imposed by International Court of Justice in the case against Israel, who is accused of genocide by South African Republic. But it also shows that it is complete disregard for international humanitarian law that is actually also supposed to protect humanitarian workers, no matter from which organizations they are, from which countries they are, etc. And I must say that we lost 5 staff as Doctors Without Borders, and some of them were killed by helping patients. Some of them were killed while sheltering with their families. Some of our staffs also lose their family members, children. So it is really not one single incident. It is not second incident. It is the whole series of attacks that are undermining actually what was meant to be the rule of law.
Mm-hmm. Frank, lastly, the whole of the Gaza Strip is basically a sea of ruins now. How long will it take to rebuild it? Will there be enough money to do it? Who will pay for it? Because it will be a huge burden, not just for Palestinians, not just for Israelis, but I guess for the whole region.
Well, there was enough money from the beginning to build not Hamas, to build a new Silicon Valley in Gaza area. And all reports prove that because of the money that everybody been donating to the Palestinian authorities and the Gazans. It's been used for the tunnels and for the destruction equipment of Hamas. So Gaza is a small area, and if the same amount of money been used for progress in the area, I think it's not a big deal. We will see a progress very soon. The problem is the usage of the money. There is a saying that if there is, let's say, a political agenda without thoughts and without enough thinking of future and progress, that will create a terrorist. And definitely, the ideas of those militias in Gaza, including Hamas and other militias, it's not just Hamas, been using the money that been donating through the Arabic words and through the rest of the world in a bad way. And we've seen in the media several times that even Israel army captured millions of dollars that been in possession of Hamas. So rebuilding is not a big issue. The destruction idea and mentality has to be rooted out of that area. And I think, Gaza is not a big piece of land. It will be easy to make it even better than Silicon Valley if we have better mentalities and better thoughts and ideas in that area.
All right. Well, thank you very much to you both for speaking to us here on this matter on TVP World. Draginja Nadazdin, General Director, Doctors Without Borders Poland, and Dr. Frank Musmar, Middle East expert. Thank you very much to you both.